You know, it's funny that this is called Reviews for the Ride Home, but 3 of my videos now will not be in my cart. Blame the weather. Don't blame me. So I just went and saw Exodus, Gods and Kings, which is a Ridley Scott adaptation of Moses, which I'm sure we all know, even if you're not a religious person like me. And that's actually what kind of excited me about when I first heard of the idea of Gods and Kings, was that it was being directed by a very openly atheist man. And Moses' story from the Judeo-Christian text is a really, really, really exciting and really cool story. For what it is, even if you're not religious. It's exciting, it's brutal, it's a good movie. We've seen it done twice. Personally, Prince of Egypt is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. It's a beautiful movie, great story, it's bright, it's vibrant, it's exciting. Moses is very relatable. He's a lot of fun to experience no matter how you really write him. And I was excited to see an atheist man take that approach, like an openly atheist man take it from a not Christian or Jewish approach, to see how an atheist man in Hollywood views this kind of story. I was really disappointed. It's not at all as special or as interesting or as groundbreaking as I wanted it to be. It was just a big special effects show. It was the production team saying, hey, look, I can make the water waves look cool. Ooh. For what it is, I mean, it's just weird. I mean, why are all of the Egyptians white? Why am I looking at Christian Bale and Ben Kingsley and Joel Edgerton and John Turturro as a pharaoh? I didn't like that either. Why is this entire movie whitewashed? It makes it even more uncomfortable because we don't need to see that. We are smart enough to know that a white man like Christian Bale would not have been Moses. At least I think we're smart enough. Exodus, Gods and Kings, and any adaptation of the Moses story has a lot of potential to be something really exciting and really interesting. And this was not. This felt very slow, very boring, did not go anywhere quickly, did not do anything to change the ideas around the Moses story. It was all very generic, redundant, didn't feel like there was any weight to anything that was being put on screen. Even the big special effects felt like they weren't there. It felt like when I saw Avatar, I felt the same way. I felt like, yes, the CGI looks great, but at the same time, I'm incredibly conscious of the fact that I'm looking at CGI. That's the same thing for Exodus, Gods and Kings. Only this time it's probably a little less effective because with Avatar they were at least making a whole world, and I can attribute it to that. This, it was adding, you know, CGI locust swarms, obviously, or CGI hail, or whatever, what have you, and all of it just felt weightless. It felt pointless. It didn't feel like there was any punch or really any, all that much fear. If there's one thing that I do have to give the movie credit for, though, it's looking at Egypt as a whole, which, even though we've seen it touched upon in previous movies, especially Prince of Egypt. Prince of Egypt especially is my favorite example, so I'm going to go back to it. It feels like it's all kind of confined to one city. You don't feel the weight of it really affecting a nation. I feel like you do in Gods and Kings, and it feels weighted that we're watching the collapse of not just one city, but Pharaoh's entire country. That was cool. But that being said, Joel Edgerton as the Pharaoh, what were you thinking? That's so odd to me. Moses, Christian Bale, I can even understand that to an extent. I wouldn't condone it because we are smart enough to know that Moses' area of the world is not white, but I could at least understand casting of a big name role. Joel Edgerton as Ramses, it was just weird seeing this white guy in really bad Egyptian forced makeup. Also, as a non-Christian, I did not like the fact that God was portrayed as this immature child, because what I saw was an immature child leading a kind of brainless Moses who didn't really do any thinking for himself whatsoever, and an over-the-top immature Ramses duking it out. Who am I supposed to cheer for? There's no one in this I want to cheer for. Everyone's going to compare this in some extent to Noah because they came out the same year and were both non-religious adaptations of obviously religious stories. Noah made the very smart decision of never showing God and never showing that God even necessarily existed. That it was about Noah's decision and about the weight that Noah was carrying and about the faith. That's what religion is all about anyway. It was about Noah having faith that what he was doing was right. Instead of that, we see Moses talking to a God portrayed as an immature, loudmouthed child. And Moses calls him a messenger, so maybe it's not supposed to be God, but he's speaking for God, so I'm going to credit it anyway. But being very mature, screaming immature things. And you understand, obviously, coming from the idea of 400 years of slavery, you want some revenge. But this is God. this is God we're talking about, and especially considering that this is the same God who we're acknowledging is the Judeo-Christian telling of the story, created all life, including these guys, and said he wouldn't do it after the flood. This movie has really mixed messages. I wanted to really see something cool out of Gods and Kings. What I got was nothing original and actually quite confused. It didn't really know what it wanted to be. I think it didn't even really know what it wanted to say. And that's okay, but at that point then I would have gone the route of Noah and taken God out of the equation entirely and let it be about one man's faith in God rather than one man's story with God, especially if you're going to go this route of making God immature. It doesn't really work because, again, this point, I'm looking at two clashing sides and I don't support either one. I hope neither of them win. I hope they all kill each other because it was really, really immature. Never thought I'd say that Moses was immature. God, I see movies that make me think some really weird things. As always, I will have the review up and on my website within probably the day or two. So you can head to www.mickey.reviews.com. Also click here because I also saw The Hobbit tonight. And that's going to be my review of The Hobbit. I'm just splitting it up into 2 videos this time. So thanks for watching. Take care. Go watch my Hobbit review.